years ago, and I was just bored, kind of, when you work, you used to going somewhere every day. So I picked up the habit of going to the grocery store every day. And guess what? I hate grocery shopping. But I found myself every day at this one particular store. So I said to myself, wow, I come here so often, I might as well work here. So I saw for help wanted. So I went to the customer service desk, and because I had already applied online but hadn't heard from anyone. So I left my number at the customer service desk. And before I could get home good, they were calling me. The manager called me in for an interview. And he said, well, you have a very friendly face. I said, oh, thank you. And he said, so where would you like to work in the store? I said produce. And the reason I said produce was because I wanted to think about being healthy. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be healthy. So he said, well, we really don't need people in produce. What we really need here are cashiers. I said, well, I really don't want to be a cashier. I'd rather work in produce. So they got me prepared to be a cashier. But before you become a cashier, you have to become a bagger. So, and what I like about this particular store is that it believes in hiring people with disabilities. And they usually they're always the baggers at the store. But the thing about some of them is that you have to give them instructions. So when the foods come down the conveyor belt, so let's say this is the conveyor belt here. So you have to tell them to be sure to grab the food and put it into bags. So what they will do is they'll go like this, the conveyor belt. So so when I started, I would do the same thing, and I would get tips. And then as more things came down the conveyor belt, I did this more often. And my tips got bigger. So I thought to myself, wow, this is kind of nice. I like being a bagger. So they said, well, so you can't be a bagger forever. You have to be a cashier. That's what we hired you for. So I said, okay. But the thing about grocery stores is that you have to remember, everybody eats. Children, birds, cats, dogs, everything that's alive eats food. So you get an opportunity to meet all kinds of people. And the thing about this particular store, most of the customers were like in their 80s. They love to tell you that they're in their 80s. Because I'm in my 60s, so it made me feel like a teenager. The problem is that when they're in their 80s, in my mind, they think, oh, did you drive here? Is it safe for me to leave? I'm thinking this means a lot of car crashes in the parking lot. But they love telling you that they're 80. So one day, one of the customers came in, and she had all these KY jellies she had bought from
oh my God!
In the pharmacy. I was so embarrassed. I was embarrassed for her, seriously. I was even embarrassed to scan the KY jellies. And she had this little smile on her face. And I was like, isn't she embarrassed at all about this KY jelly? So I said, oh, you've been hanging out with P. Diddy. The next day, she came and she got all the monostack. Oh. You've been partying a little too much. And then the thing about it is that many of the little ladies that's in their 80s, they all had back. I said, why did they have back? I didn't realize they were buying these Depends, that made them look like they had tush in the back. So I said, oh, I'm going to have to get me some of those too. But you meet all kinds of people. Like people will come in talking on their cell phones and engrossed in long conversations. And remember, we are cashiers, so we listen in. We are listening to your calls. So one particular guy was in line with like 24 cases, I guess like beers, like 24, I don't really drink beer, so I think it's like 24 cases. He had 2 of them. But he was telling the person on the phone, I'm on my way to my AA meeting. What AA meeting are you going to? 24 cases of beer. And then you sometimes meet customers that are very, very generous. And they will pay for the customer ahead of them their food or something. Yeah. So there's one lady that was in line, and she had a birthday cake, and she was also expecting. So the customer behind her told me, he said, don't worry, he said, I'll pay for the cake for her, so don't worry about it. So she said, oh, thank you, sir, that's so kind of you. So I said to him, is this what you have to do to get a free cake? But, all the times there were always people in my line And I thought that, they was there because it said cashier in training. But what I realized was that they were hoping I would make a mistake and that their groceries would cost them less. Because my lines would be like down the aisle. So why are you waiting here for a cashier in training? Get in another line. But it was because I was new and they knew I was in training. And I was working during a time too where there was, where the prices of eggs were very, very expensive. So every customer that came through the line talked about the eggs and the cost of eggs. I said, one more customer talk about these eggs, I'm gonna lay an egg. And it just went on and on and on every time they got in the line about the cost of eggs. I was like, well, they're so expensive, don't buy them. But the thing is that what I learned from being a cashier, as you've heard from my bio, I was used to being a professional, I wasn't used to being on my feet. And I came to really appreciate the work that cashiers do. I had no idea standing all day and how it felt. And then when you have to take a break, you only get like a 15-minute break. And the break room is 7 minutes to get there and 7 minutes to get back. So I didn't think about any of these types of things until I was in that role. And it gave me such an appreciation for the work that cashiers do. And I think it was probably one of the best things that could have happened to me in my life was to have that type of experience. And then the thing about it is that many cashiers are women. And a lot of times they're older women. And this is the only skill set that they have. And this is how they have to live. And I didn't, because I'm like most of us. I go to the store, I get my food, I go home. I don't really engage that often with cashiers or think about how their life might be or why they're there. And it is such an important role. Like I said earlier, we all eat. Whether you're a bird, cat, dog, whatever, you're going to eat if you're alive. An insect, you're going to eat. So these people are very important to us. So I think that was the lesson I learned through that. And thank you so much.